Hello, everybody, and welcome to the MassLive High School Sports Bracket Breakdown Show. My name is Gage, and we're going to have a great show here for you today. I'm going to be chatting with reporters from across the state as we look back on the first few rounds of the state tournament, um, looking at sports like baseball, softball, boys lacrosse, and girls lacrosse. But before we get going, I want to look at things from a Western Mass perspective really quick just to see who's still alive. Western Massachusetts had 149 teams qualify for the postseason across all sports, all divisions, and now only 25 teams remain. A lot of highly seeded teams from Western Massachusetts still in it. But basically almost every single team that Longmeadow provides for spring sports is still alive at this point. I'm looking at girls tennis, looking at girls lacrosse, boys volleyball. So the Lancers still have a lot to be excited about this postseason. Looking at Belchertown girls tennis, PVC ICS boys tennis, a great story the last few years. They're doing a great job still in the postseason. Looking at Westfield volleyball, Agawam volleyball, Westfield baseball and softball. The Bombers also having a great spring postseason in a couple of different sports. Longmeadow boys and girls lacrosse, of course, not to really anybody's surprise, to still be alive at this point in the state postseason. Softball is really from all the way divisions 5, 4, all the way up to 2, Greenfield, Turners, Hampshire, Pittsfield. A lot of really good softball. Many great pitchers in Western Massachusetts doing their thing in the state postseason. And I guess speaking about softball, that leads me to my first guest. I'm going to pull up my man Kenny Minogue here up into the show, my coworker here at MassLive. Kenny, you have had the privilege of seeing just a ridiculous amount of softball this year. And I mean, you love softball so much. I told you we were doing the show. It's your day off. And you're like, you know what? I don't care. Let's go. We're talking softball. You wanted a piece. And there's no really buddy better to talk softball with, especially in Western Massachusetts, than you. So we could really start anywhere, but I want to start with Pittsfield. The Generals out in Berkshire County. They've been having a great year this year. Just taking a look back to the number 3 seed in Division 4. They won the Class B title in Western Massachusetts, dethroned Hampshire, which you were there for. Pittsfield, last time I checked, 20-3. They beat up on Hamilton Wenham early in the postseason. They beat East Hampton, another good Western Mass team, to get into the quarterfinal today against Uxbridge. Pittsfield, they're always strong. This isn't really like super surprising that they're here right now. But just looking back in their history, this is definitely one of their better teams, it looks like, in recent years. So like I said, you've seen it all in Western Mass this year. You've seen Pittsfield, like I said, in that class Western Mass championship. So what is it about Pittsfield this year? What have you seen? Why have they been so strong so far?
It's really the power at the plate that the team is able to provide and consistency throughout the lineup, which is something that we've seen in both this team as well as the team I'm going to talk about next in Hampshire. At the top of the lineup for Pittsfield, I mean, at the leaderboard at least, Isabella McDonald, 46 hits on the year. She has been one of the top. She has been the league leader in Western Mass. But also down the lineup, they have multiple hitters. Nevia Lopez has 35 hits on the year. Multiple players down the lineup with over 20 hits. This is just one of the best offenses on all Western Mass. They beat East Hampton in the last round 9-3, had a 5-run first inning in a great game, really good performance. They have this ability to just pop off for big innings. And when you can put that crooked number and on the opposition, that just builds momentum for you and brings down the confidence level for the other team at this level, in these type of games, in postseason. That is all you need to ride on to victory. The same thing happens as well as recently for Hamilton in regional. Last 2 games over Wacona, they beat them by 11 in the round of 32, and at home against Clinton, they beat them 15-3 after a 9-run second inning. It was a real demonstration of their ability at the plate and with the bat in hand. Really good performance here from Hampshire, and I think that they have a really good chance of coming through the bracket. But they're also going to be facing up against a team that is another top side, possibly later on, if South Hadley can pull off an upset against Tingsboro. I know it's going to be a very tough task on the road, but they've already pulled off they've already pulled off a road win against Amesboro, 2-0 shutout with Super 7 star pitcher Isabel Schaefer. They have a chance, I think, in any game against any team if she can get past them. But this is one of the top teams in Division 4 for a reason. So it's going to be interesting to see how she does on the road on Sunday against Tingsboro at 1 p.m.
Right. I mean, if you mentioned Isabella Schaefer, we were talking about a little bit before we started. I was just looking at the games South Hadley has played up until this point. I think they're the number 10 seed in their bracket. You mentioned earlier in the postseason, 3-0 win against Cohasset, 2-0 win against Amesbury, like you mentioned. So, it seems like Isabella Schaefer is doing what she did in Western Mass and bringing that to the state postseason. And like you said, it'll be interesting to see how far they can go. But I do want to slide up a little bit to Division II and talk about Westfield. Bombers won the state championship 2 years ago, fell in the semis last year. Now they've got Notre Dame Academy on tap for Sunday in the semifinals. They're 21-2 last time I checked. Have another great young pitcher in Shea Hurley in the circle for them. She's one of just many great pitchers out here in Western Mass. Mackenzie Paulin, Maddie Limitani, and all these different people have been so great, and she's one of them. But when it comes to Westfield this year, in comparison to maybe, 2 years ago or the year before, this year with the Bombers, what has it been with them? Does it start and end with Shea Hurley? I mean, I know they've got the bats as well. You have to at a point to get the runs across and move on. It can't just be pitching. But from what you've seen from Westfield, what are those things that have just made the Bombers so, I guess, no pun intended, explosive this year?
I mean, it really does. I don't mean to keep it too simple, but it really does start at least with Shea Hurley and on the dominance in the circle, because she has just continued to develop and continue to improve her abilities. And Westfield plays some of the top teams in all of Massachusetts, not just in Western Mass. And so when you can look at the numbers and you look at the stats that the Westfield is putting up in terms of run scoring, they may not be able to put up the runs that we've seen that we just talked about with Pittsfield and with Hampshire, but that does not mean that this is not a dangerous offensive side. And they have good hitters. Ciara Toporowski has over 20 hits on the year, as well as Grace Leduc, and they have multiple players with over 15 hits on this roster. They can get it done when it's necessary. But as long as you have a pitcher like Shea Hurley in the circle that is able to get you 10 to 15 plus strikeouts in any game against any opponent, you're going to be in a position to win.
Right. And like we said earlier, I mean, just a lot of really good Western Mass softball teams still alive. I mean, we talked about Turner's, talked about Greenfield. I know we talked about South Hadley across divisions 4, 5, and then Westfield up to 2. There's a lot to cover, and if there's anybody to cover, it's you, Kenny. So thanks so much for stopping by again on your day off. Like, hey, rest and relax, man. We still got plenty of softball to go. So thank you so much, Kenny, for jumping in.
Thank you. Cheers.
All right. Moving forward, keeping with the MassLive adjacent people that can maybe talk about some sports for us. I want to bring in former MassLive intern and now full-time at the Gardner News. She's doing a great job there, Kate Kemp. So Kate, I'm going to beam you in and just taking a look with what you've had going on in your area. I know we got Oakmont baseball top seeded in their bracket. Narragansett softball has been doing a great job as well, keeping things rolling. But I do want to start, if we can, with Oakmont baseball. Like I mentioned, number 1 seed in Division 3. They're the reigning champs. And looking at the scores that they've had just so far in the state postseason, almost a little bit South Hadley softball-ish, like I was just saying with Kenny. They're the top seed, but a 1-0 win against Arlington Catholic early on, a 3-0 win against Nauset to get to the round of 8, where they're going to play Bishop Stang this weekend. I would imagine that pitching and defense has been their bread and butter, but I mean, you would know better than anybody else when it comes to Oakmont baseball. I'm sure they want to repeat, and winning one state championship is fun, but no more fun than winning 2. If they're going to do it, what are going to be some of those reasons? Why do you think?
Yeah, so absolutely, like you said, the pitching staff is just incredible this season. I was talking to them the other day, and they kind of all agreed, they expect it to be strong, but, it's really, they're feeling like the best they could be right now. They have senior, kind of their ace pitcher, Caleb Allen, who interestingly enough sprained his ankle game 2 of the season, was out for 9 games, just about 3 weeks. And, even down such a impact player like that, they went 9-0 without him. He came back, and, he's been contributing since then, pitched that Arlington Catholic game, the 1-0 game, and was able to actually record his 300th career strikeout, which is a huge accomplishment in high school baseball. So, with that type of pitching, so without him during that kind of hiatus for him, Ben Forbes, another senior, really stepped up last year in the postseason. He helped kind of clinch those later games, especially in the state finals, which they won in dramatic fashion, going to 12 innings, I think it was. So, they're kind of used to this grind, maybe not always, like you said, scoring the most runs, but, they just grind it out. They have a really great group of athletes on that team. Another mention, Levi Hessel, he's a junior, part of the pitching staff, and all those pitchers kind of are interchangeable in the infield positions as well. So, they just have strong people. Sam Curtis, another senior captain at second base. Just all around solid guys that are really helping. And, when it comes to offense, not always, crazy hits, which sometimes, of course, but, they just know how to get on base and just kind of string together some hits to, get runs here and there. So.
Gotcha. And you mentioned sort of when it comes to a team like them grinding it out, another team that has really been grinding it out this year. I'd mentioned Narragansett on the softball side of things, or, like I said, Gansett, as some call them.
Yeah.
Number 7 seed in D5. I was taking a look, came into the tournament. I think it was 9-7, if I saw it correctly. So they've been on the right side of things. They've been on the wrong side of things, but they've battled to get to this point. And I imagine they're better because of it. They shut out Westfield Tech early on in the state tournament, defeated Drury to earn a spot now in the round of 8 against Turner's Falls. And when it comes to Turner's Falls, from what we know out here in Western Mass, I mean, Maddie Limitanian is going to be, she's going to be throwing it really well, probably in the circle for Turner's Falls. But on the Narragansett side of things, if Narragansett is going to be able to defeat Turner's and move on that side of things, on the softball side of things, what are some of those reasons going to be? What are the things that has powered Narragansett so far this season?
Yeah, similarly enough, again, like the pitching, they have a sophomore pitcher, Mia Minka. I mean, you just watching her play, like, even though she's young, you can tell she like knows the game, her technique, mechanics, everything. She's just a softball player. She's been pitching really well for them this season. Throws like, I think last game 1 hitter, double-digit strikeouts in these games. So that's really helping them. And along with her, Cassidy Paradis. So she's a junior pitcher, so a little bit more experience, another one that can kind of rotate in there. That's kind of been their key, against someone like Turner's Falls. It'll be interesting to kind of see what they can do in that scenario. I'll definitely be interested to see tomorrow. I think that game is tomorrow afternoon. So yeah, we'll see if she can, those couple pitchers can stay strong and kind of help power that through.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kate. I'm trying to think. So do you know where you're going to be up next, or it remains to be determined for you which game you're going to be at next, or is it still TBD?
Yeah, TBD. I'm not positive yet. So
TBD. Well, I mean, if anyone's still alive, I'm sure you'll be there. I'm sure you'll be on top of it. Thank you so much, Kate, for jumping in.
Thank you so much.
All right. And now, selfishly here, as a Central Mass native, I want to keep it in Central Mass here for a minute. I want to bring in somebody that has seen a lot of really good baseball this year. Central Mass has had a lot of really good baseball between St. John Shrewsbury and Leominster in Division I, Clinton in Division IV, and so much more than that. I want to bring in Rich Garvin from the Worcester Telegram and Gazette. We're going to beam him in here in a minute. Like I mentioned, Rich, a lot of really good baseball in Central Mass, and you've basically seen all of it so far this spring. I did see that you were at Clinton most recently for their round of 16 game against Joseph Case. I think if I saw it correctly, back-to-back shutouts to open the state tournament for the Gales. Came in with a record of 15-3, and they're still rolling. They're in a round of 16. This is a spot that I think that they're maybe used to, if I recall correctly, with them. I mean, Clinton always a really good baseball program. But from what you've seen, what is it with Clinton this year? If they're going to keep this thing going, what are some of those reasons going to be, do you think?
Yeah, so like a lot of the teams still in it, the Gales have pitching. I'll just say Clinton's a football town first and foremost, and the last baseball title was in 1993 for the Gales. They're in a pretty good position to do it. The pitcher who pitched the other day, Brian Sylvester, threw a one-hitter against Case, didn't walk a batter, and the only other base runner came on an error. He's the number one guy as a sophomore, definite college potential guy at this stage, probably a low D level too. They have another guy, Aiden Green, who would be a 1B, I guess, if you want to go the 1A, 1B thing. Aiden's going to go against Pittsfield tomorrow. He's also a very, very good pitcher. And then they have some relief depth there. So that's what's carried them this year. Gales have 3 losses. 2 of them were very competitive games against Oakmont, which Kate just mentioned, defending Division III state champion. And the other one was very early in the season when they were working things out. I would say the one thing, so they're positioned well right now because their 2 starters are rolling. So in other words, if they get past Pittsfield, the Sylvester kid's going to be ready to go. I think he's 6-0 on the season right now, might be 7-0. The one, I guess, weakness, so to speak, with them is hitting is contagious. And it can be contagious and they can't hit and they catch a cold, or it's contagious and they catch it and they're all it. But it seems like it's they won their first round game with 3 hits. I think it was the number 30 seed. They took 9 innings, won a 1-0 game. So they're not a lock, but they're pitching. They've given up 0 runs in the tournament so far.
Wow. And interestingly enough, like I said, I was just taking a look at where you've kind of been the last few weeks, and it seems like whatever game you're at, it just ends up being a really good game. I was taking a look, jumping up to Division I quickly. There's St. John's, Shrewsbury, and there's Leominster. And looking at St. John's, I think it was the round of 16 game against Franklin, a 5-4 game. I think if I saw it correctly, Braden Mercier getting it done with that hit late, just to move up to them for a moment. I think if I recall correctly, St. John's, Shrewsbury, number 2 seed in that division. Just like I mentioned, outlasting Franklin. So switching gears to St. John's, with what you've seen, and I know they're still maybe fresh in the memory after that game against Franklin for you, it's not too much of a surprise that the Pioneers are kind of here at this point. I mean, St. John's always has a really strong baseball program, and I'm sure, you've seen them, of course, during the last few years. But when it comes to this year's team in particular with St. John's, how would you best describe what makes them so strong so far this year?
Yeah, so the Pioneers were in the state semifinals last year, and ended up losing to Taunton, which went on to win its 2nd straight state title. No surprise. They play in the toughest conference in the state. Let's admit, the Catholic Conference, and the team they beat, Franklin. To me, the Hockomock is the best public league conference in the state, and Franklin made the last 2 state finals. Quality win for them. They're a team again, like Clinton, that they have an up and down order for hitters, but it's very, I think something along the lines of they had like 9 innings where they haven't scored a run in the playoffs so far. Their runs have come in bunches. They had a 4-run inning, a 3-run inning, and another 3-run inning. And it's the same deal with that. But they have different ways to score. They have guys who can hit 7 hits the other day, 4 were for extra bases. They can steal. But the number one thing is, again, like everybody this time of year, pitching. The number 1 pitcher, 6'4" lefty Brady Shea, is, I assume, taking the mound today. 6-0 in the season. His dad is well known in Central Mass. He's Kevin Shea, who's a longtime sports anchor at Spectrum News.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Brady's going to Salve Regina, which I believe, Salve Regina definitely made the Division III NCAA tournament. I'm not sure how they advanced from there, and he's developed over time. Probably the biggest surprise for St. John's is that their number 1 pitcher going into the season, Noah Basgard, who's a commit to Stonehill, Division I, hasn't pitched since early April because of tendonitis in his right forearm. Mm-hmm. And you lost your 1-2 punch there, so they've had to ask the guys below them to all step up. Braden Mercier would normally be a 3 guy for them, and he's pitching in the 2 role. And he's done well. He's a lefty. I was talking to the Worcester State coach the other day, and he thinks the kid's a great athlete. He's a center fielder. He's 7 for 10 in the tournament. He thinks the kid has a future as a pitcher at the college level. So they have that, and they have depth with the pitching staff. Casey Cummins, his first year as coach, has put together a great staff, particular emphasis on pitching. So that's kind of what's carrying them right now.
Gotcha. Okay. And then just one last thing, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Leominster, just with them being up there as well in Division One. I know you were at another great game for them earlier in the tournament. Alex Coco with a late hit to beat St. Paul. They're the number 5 seed in Division One. Came in with a great record, of course, 16-2, I think, into the postseason. I think they have Braintree tonight in the next round, if I recall correctly. And if they win tonight, they're going to be in those semis. So from your perspective, like I said, I mean, you've seen a lot of these really great teams in Central Mass this year. You know, you've gotten your fix on Leominster. So what's the story with Leominster? If they're going to make it here into this next round, why do you think that will be? What is it with them this year?
Sure. So Leominster, this is a terrific matchup because Braintree out of the East, Leominster out of the Central. They're two of the perennial powerful programs in Central Mass. I mean, Braintree's every year there. Leominster reached the state finals for the last time in 2021. I believe they won 4 state titles altogether. Not pitching tonight is Angel Baez. Angel is undoubtedly one of the best two-way baseball players in the state. He was our home team player of the year last year as a junior. He's going to Southern New Hampshire University, Division II, College World Series regular. We're probably going to play second base, elite hitter, on-base guy. But what they do have is a ton of pitching depth. Like they have 4 quality starters. I mean, they rotate through 3, obviously, but they have 4. Coco was in there the other day to finish things out, but they have Reese Laura, and Nick Massa, who's a 4-year starting shortstop, 4-year starter at shortstop, ping pitch. And interesting enough, like with St. John's, he's escaping my name here. His Garner, I'll come up with it. His dad is the former Fitchburg High, former baseball coach. His brother's pitching up at Husson, a Division III perennial power there. And he's a sophomore elite hitter, and he's another guy. Happened to be at that game, like with the Basgard kid, and he came down with a arm injury, and he's not pitching, and he was their number 2 guys. They've had to overcome that. What makes Leominster is what always makes Leominster, is that they're tough, gritty kids. They battle, they fight, they believe in themselves, they don't give up, they take coaching well. It's a senior-laden team, and it's, to use the term, battle-tested. And there are 2 losses this year. One is to Wachusett, which is a league rival. The other one was in the first game of the season by a run to Oakmont. They're very competitive. I think they're like 6-3 in 1-run games this year, something along those lines. They know how to win. They don't get flustered.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I mean, as we get deeper here into the postseason, sometimes, with seasons with us as reporters, we might think, okay, our schedules are going to get a bit thinner and thinner as some of our teams in our region fall away. But you're only going to get busier with all these teams that you've got to keep track of. Where are you going to be at next? You at anything tonight, or what's on the docket?
Yeah, so I'll be at St. John's this afternoon, and I'm actually going to be covering Oakmont tomorrow.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, with the way things have been going, I'm assuming both of those games are going to go extra innings and be 1-run games because you've only been at great games. So get your tickets to those games. Whatever Rich is at, it's going to be a great game. Thank you so much, Rich.
Great. Appreciate it, Gage.
All right. Let's keep the good times going. I want to take a trip, if we may, over to the North Shore, where there's a handful of really talented teams still alive across a couple of sports. And to help me do that, I'm going to bring in Mark Abuian from the Lynn Item. We're going to beam him in here in a second. And, I just figured, he did such a great job on our bracket preview show. Let's bring him in for round 2. So Mark, just taking a look here for you, when it comes to for your coverage area, St. Mary's is kind of that's a big thing for you guys out there, and deservedly so, between baseball and softball, especially this spring. But I want to start with baseball if we can. I'm just taking a look. Came into the tournament in St. Mary's baseball 16-4, shut out Pentucket early in the tournament, took out Norwell the other day, now in the round of 8 against North Middlesex. The team made it to the D2 semis last year, if I took a look at that correctly. They're in your backyard. I'm sure. I mean, seeing them a ton. When it comes to St. Mary's baseball, if they're gonna keep the good times going here, why do you think that's going to be? What has powered St. Mary's so far this year, do you think?
Yeah, for their baseball team, it's definitely their defense. That's definitely their calling card. They have very good pitching throughout the season. There's been there are multiple shutout games. All they need is one run, and you feel confident that they're going to get it done just between their pitching, but their defense as well. The speed they have in the outfield. I mean, they play over at Frazier Field, which is I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's a very big field. I'm not with how far it is from home plate to the wall per se, but it's a very big field, and their outfielders can get there instantly. Their infield, you rarely see them make any errors, and they're just an overall built on defense. And that's when I was talking to they started out the year so strong. I think it was 11 straight wins to start the season. And when I was talking to their coach, Derek Dana, he said, like, yeah, defense is our calling card. The one thing that that could stump them up a bit, I guess, it would be their offense. When they're not clicking, sometimes they've had multiple games this year when they've won 1-0, maybe 2-0, but it was a lot closer than maybe it should have been. Some of the past reporters that were just on here were just saying, like, they hit in streaks. And that's kind of like how they are at times. So that's like their one weakness. But if you have great defense and great pitching, you could ride that in a hitting slump if you are in one.
Gotcha. And like I mentioned, when it comes to St. Mary's, they're not I guess what would the term be, a one sport or a one trick pony. Looking over at softball, probably just just take a walk over to the softball field for a second with them in softball. Number 5 seed, I think, from what I took when I saw in D3, breezed past Tri-County and Nipmuc earlier in the tournament. Looks like they're going to play Norton coming up in the quarterfinals. Came to the tournament 14-4, top seed last year, and if I recall correctly, I think fell in the quarterfinals as the top seed last year. So I'm sure they've got
Bishop Fenwick, I believe.
Yeah, so I'm sure they've got a fire in the belly a little bit after that. Those kids, those girls that are back now. If this year is going to be different, if they're gonna sort of right that wrong, as I'm sure they see it in their heads, what's going to be the difference for them, St. Mary softball, this year, do you think?
Yeah, well, you said breeze past Nipmuc. It was actually they scored 8 runs in the 6th inning, so it was
made it look better maybe than it may have been.
Yeah. So that was a tough game. I was covering that game. I was over there, and for that game specifically, real quick, the St. Mary scored in the 1st inning, and then they Nipmuc hit a home run in the 4th. But the thing that's strong about St. Mary's is it's kind of just like just talk about the boys team. It's kind of funny how similar they are in a sense. But St. Mary's just on defense really strong. Their outfielder, Brooke Maloney, she's committed to UMass, so she'll be playing over there. And she's all about speed. She get her on base, she's swiping every bag, and she's the leader of the outfield. According to Colleen Newberry, their coach, always praises her. She's a leadoff hitter as well. She's the one that got this things going when after Nipmuc tied at 1-1. She 2-out RBI triple. So she's real come up big in the clutch. They have Eliza Crane Oviedo, their pitcher. She's a freshman, but she's so poised. After giving up that home run, the next inning she had to face them again after they got their lead again, and just she ended up loading the bases, but got out of it. She has a lot of movement off her pitches. Very strong. But St. Mary's in general, very strong in defense. Colleen was telling me after their game, like, they may take a little while to get the bats going, but their defense, their IQ is just what sets them apart from these other teams. They never rattled. I don't think I've seen them commit an error yet. In all the games I've covered them, they're very, very strong on defense, and which powers their offense. And they're very comfortable 1 through 9 hitting. I think they had 6 hitters. 6 batters had RBIs again in that game against Nipmuc. So 1 through 9, they're very comfortable. So I think this year, they go with their ace in Eliza, and I think between her and their defense, they have a shot to get to the finals, and hopefully for them, hopefully they'll get it done. Yeah, they're a really strong team from top to bottom, very balanced.
Gotcha. And sticking with softball for a moment, I want to touch on something really interesting, a really interesting story with Marblehead this year. Marblehead didn't make the postseason last year. Coming into this year, they had the talent, they had talent coming back, new girls coming in. But earlier this year, really tragically and suddenly, assistant coach for Marblehead softball, Todd Norman, passes away at 61. And he's a Marblehead grad, was involved in youth athletic coaching across town for years, including softball. I know you wrote a story earlier this season where you're at one of their games and sort of talking about maybe the impact that Norman had, on these girls and really on the town, just sort of generally. Now they're in the tournament, like I said, after not making it last year. And I know they said in your story earlier this year, they want to play this year for him. So before even getting to, I guess, the X's and O's of Marblehead this year and what's sort of pushed them just schematically to this point, from you doing that story and talking to those girls, how much of an impact do you feel like Coach Norman had on the program and this year's girls, do you think?
Yeah, a very big impact. To put it simply, I was talking to their coach Johnny Gold, who he described Norman as like one of his best friends. They've been coaching for decades together, and it was really just when I was talking to Johnny, he was telling me like you could tell the impact based on how many people that already graduated came back and like wanted to talk to talk to the team, talk to just to be there for the team, be there for the coach, because it was a sudden death. It wasn't anything. It's not anything you could foresee or anything. It literally happened on the day of their opening game too, which was and then the captain Ruby Cleanus basically got the team together and asked if they wanted to play, and they said we'll do it and we'll play for him. And yeah, like you said, like last year they did believe they finished 8-10 and missed out on the postseason, and now this year they just. Since that first game against Reading, they won. I'm blanking on the score right now, but they won pretty convincingly. And since then, they just skyrocketed. And it's just amazing to see where you could draw inspiration from, right? And maybe punching a bit above your weight, but they know they have their motivation, they have their fuel with this, and their team they're very balanced. I mean, if we want to get into the X and O's a bit of but they, a really big impact, and it was such a shock to the community as a whole, though. And it's, he was a great guy. I've talked to him a couple of times last year when we covered him. He was their third base coach too, so that's what Johnny said. That was his biggest adjustment this year, trying to get used to going from being the first base coach to the third base. But I never came across someone who had a negative word to say about Todd, and I'm sure he's watching over their team as they just started right now. They're over in they're probably number one team, Silver Lake.
Right. And so I guess just the last thing that I know you mentioned, of course, that's definitely enough fuel there to sort of power any team. That's enough gas in the tank. But I guess when it comes to the engine, when it comes to, the girls that are out there performing, whether it be in the batter's box at the plate or in the circle, who have some of those people been just, I guess, when it comes to X's and O's wise and schematically, that have helped them turn it around from missing the postseason last year to this year? Who have those people been?
Right. So I think probably one of the biggest ones was so they returned a lot of their team from last year. I think they graduated only one player. So they're basically the same team from last year, just that another year experience. But they got a few Tessa Francis, who's their pitcher. She missed a lot of last year through injury. So she's back and she's been stellar all year. I mean, talk about a variety of pitches, her movement on pitches, her changeup. She always keeps the batters guessing. She's been very big so far in this postseason. I believe against she's had the 10 strikeout game in their last against number 8 in the show for that 8-9 upset. But on offense as well, she hit a home run. She has a lot of power too. So she's been a big, I don't want to say addition, but like, she was always on the team, but big, I don't know what I'm trying to,
she's been a great player. She's been important.
Great player. Just keep it simple. Yeah, great player. And, but other than her, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, the captain, Ruby Colinas, she's does a little bit of everything for them. She stepped up last year and pitched when Tessa was out. So she moves around. She plays a lot of the infield. She play outfield. She's a really good utility player, and good on base hitter as well. But they also have a lot of players that have a bit of power between, Luca Bornhurst, Tessa Andriano, Isabel Mortensen. They're all those players. They don't really have much of a weakness in the sense of like they hit with a lot of confidence, to say the least. Like they'll put the ball in play, and then Johnny Gold does a great job of game plan. Each week, whether they had to play small ball, do they have to rely a little bit on their power? Like everyone, they're all. And what's so great about that team specifically, they're all willing to sacrifice. No one cares too much about stats. They'll bunt if they need to. They got the speed too, but they're a very balanced team, 1 through 9, and they're going to try to pull up that big upset today over at Silver Lake.
All right, cool. Like I said, I mean, still, you got definitely your hands full between the St. Mary's of it all and all these other teams you've got going on. Do you know where you're going to be up next? Do you have anything tonight, this weekend?
Yeah, so today I'm actually going to the lacrosse. I'll be at St. John's Prep. I forget who they're playing right now, but they're the thing. Do I have it up? I do not have it up, but I'll be over there in Danvers, and then tomorrow I got St. Mary's baseball.
Okay, so it's still the postseason. Mark's still got plenty to do, so follow along with Mark on Twitter. It's at Aboyan Mark on Twitter. We'll let you get back to it, Mark. Thanks so much for hopping on.
I appreciate it, Gage. I'm going.
All right, so let's put down the baseball and softball mitts for a second and the bats, and I want to pick up a lax stick, and I want to chat about some Eastern Mass lacrosse with the guy leading the way with the Boston Herald's coverage of the sport, Brendan Connolly. I'm going to pull him in here, beam him in here in a moment, just to talk about some lax. So Brendan, first off, how we doing?
I still can't hear you specifically, Gage.
Can't hear me? Okay. Well, this is live. This is showbiz. I guess this is what we do. So one second here, Brendan. Let's see what we can do. Let's see. Let's see what we can do. This is live television.
I still can't hear you yet.
All right. One sec. Drum roll. Now. All right. Let's see.
I know my mic is off. I can hear you. Or I shouldn't say I can hear you. I can see my mic working.
Well, I can hear Brendan. So how about this? How about see, this is live TV, folks. This is how we do it. This is what it's all about.
It's my first time on this stream here, so I'm trying to see
if
it's on my end.
All right. Well, let's see. I wish I knew sign language.
Camera's coming in clear. My voice is going out clear, it appears.
Yeah, let's see. How about now?
Okay.
How about now?
All right. Yeah, let's record from here, and then I'll just go over the St. John's Prep thing if that's possible. You got it. All right. So jumping into the Division I hemisphere, I think the easy favorite right now is St. John's Prep. They've been the favorite since the beginning of the season, just from the opening get-go. The question was, who's going to step up to challenge them? Would it be BC High, who we saw last year? They had a pretty good season, but it could be anyone from this Division I field, I think. It just is a matter of who gets hot at the right time. Question is, will St. John's Prep falter? I just can't see it at the moment. I think they have a couple of great players. Union College commit and Brendan Powers. They've got Jake Vanna, Princeton College commit, who's really been a star since he first arrived on the scene there. Over at he's a local guy from the North Shore, just went into the program, immediately had success from the time he was a youngster. So I could see St. John's Prep just coasting right along to the finals. And then is there a team there that sees them, takes them down? Possibly. I don't know. It's going to be tough. Division II field for the boys, I think, is a little bit more tricky. We've got the Patriot League teams that you have to watch out for. Duxbury playing Reading today. That's a rematch of the Division II final last year. And then you've got Marshfield, Hingham, two teams that have challenged them over the course of the season. Hingham has perennially been a strong team in Division I. They dropped down one rank this year. I could see them just coasting along as well. It's a question of, do we see those South Shore teams struggle with any of these North Shore programs like Billerica, Reading along the way? That's a question I would have.
Got you. I'm assuming you still can't hear me. Check the phone.
And then jumping to the girls' side. Oh,
no, that's.
I got it. I saw your message. Yeah. I was going to say, and jumping to the girls' side, we were talking about this earlier today, Gage. Division I, it's a toss-up, really. With a team like Westwood leaving, it leaves the door open for some of those new teams that we are seeing having success. Central Catholic, you've got yours, Wellesley. And then on the Western side, I think, no, wait, that's Division II. I should correct myself on that. But overall, I think those are the two teams we have to watch out for right off the gate. And then somebody could easily come in and knock them off because it's a very tough field this year. There were a lot of teams with high power ratings. Division II, it's really a question of who can beat Notre Dame Academy on the South Shore. Like, could we see a Western Mass team like Longmeadow, as you highlighted, come out of the gate there and possibly do it? Could we see East Longmeadow? Could we see any of those teams get hot at the right time? I don't know. The only one I could possibly see not off Notre Dame Academy is Westwood. And that's because of Margot Spatola and her coaching staff there. They have developed an amazing crew over the last couple of years and great consistency. That's the only one I could possibly see pulling off an upset here. I feel like it's Notre Dame Academy's field to lose, though. If you have any Western Mass teams to look out for, like I mentioned, Longmeadow, East Longmeadow, those are the ones I would point out to on the girls' side as well.
Got you. Okay. Thank you, Brendan.
And as for Division III, 4, I like Nantucket this year in Division 4. I like Medfield in Division 3.
Yeah.
Division 3.
Okay. Well,
thank you.
We're all set. Can you hear me? No? Okay.
Thanks again, Gage, for your time here, and I appreciate you joining.
Thank you, Brendan. Okay. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everybody. I shout out to Brendan. We somehow made that work. I thought so, at least. I thought we kind of made that work. But I do, if my mic is working, I think it is, want to keep it with lacrosse for a moment and just looking on the Western Mass side of things, just to see what's left. I know Brendan mentioned the girls for Longmeadow. Of course, the boys for Longmeadow are still going. But I was able to go to the Longmeadow boys lax game the other day. Of course, Longmeadow boys in Division II, they're still rolling. They have Billerica in the next round. But I saw their game against Plymouth South in the round of 16. And I've seen a decent amount of Longmeadow boys this year. But I don't think I've seen them play offense as fluidly as they have this year, as they did against Plymouth South. Truly, the game was over in the first 5 minutes with the way that they were moving on the break. I don't know if I've seen a team play better in space this year than I have with Longmeadow. And I've seen a lot of different Longmeadow boys lacrosse teams within the last 5-6 years, going back to the Richie Joseph days in 2021, Luke Schillick, Carter Hanrahan, all those amazing attackmen. But this year's team is a certain level of depth on offense that I don't know if I've seen before. And it's not just juniors and seniors. It's not just the guys that have been through it all for 3 years. There was freshmen on Longmeadow this year that are contributing in a very meaningful way. Miles Chapman's on top of 42 goals. He's an upperclassman. He's a senior. But then you have a sophomore like Max Cicciatella with 40 plus goals as a sophomore at Longmeadow is kind of ridiculous. You've got 5 guys with 30 plus goals. 2 of them are underclassmen. Colin Mulderrick is a freshman with 39 goals. He's 15, 16 years old at Longmeadow, contributing in an extremely meaningful way, 39 goals. That's been pretty wild for them this year. And all those young guys, they haven't had an easy season. This hasn't been an easy ride. Longmeadow boys went independent this year, independent schedule. They left the PBIAC. They left the Valley League. And head coach Keith Campbell was like, okay, give me the best you got. Let's play the best teams we can in the entire state. Even if they have to go out of state, they'll do it too. They played Central Catholic. They played Duxbury. They played Billerica during the regular season, who they're going to play again here coming up. Played Medfield, Pinkerton Academy, Newton North, Lincoln South, Franklin, Lincoln Sudbury, Franklin. These are Longmeadow has always found a way with their non-league schedule to play difficult games, but with them going independent, they're trying to play, a state championship game twice a week. And that's basically what they did this season. They won 2 games by just a goal. So these underclassmen that were coming in, like I mentioned Mulderrick, I mentioned Cicciatella, I mentioned all those guys coming in as freshmen and sophomores. Now at this point, they're basically like seniors. They've been through battles already, and it's only gonna get more difficult here as things go on. And it's going to be Billerica again, like I mentioned, for them in the state quarterfinals. They beat them by a goal in the regular season on the road in a hostile environment. They beat them in the state championship 2 years ago. They beat them in the state tournament last year. And although Longmeadow has had the success, they have the green W next to their name when it comes to playing Billerica in the last few years. It's definitely a rivalry. And that's what head coach Keith Campbell had said after the Plymouth South game a few days ago, that it's a friendly rivalry at this point. Friendly, I don't know. I don't know. It's definitely a rivalry. And the game's going to be at Longmeadow. And the winner of that game is either going to get Hingham or Mansfield in the semifinals. I know Longmeadow last year ran into a loaded Reading squad in the playoffs. And so Reading took them out in the state tournament last year. But this year's team, they're picking up that independent schedule, picking up those battle scars. You got freshmen and sophomores playing like 4-year vets. You got upperclassmen guys that are unselfish. I was talking to Finley Morin, who's a senior attackman for Longmeadow the other day after the Plymouth South game. I'm asking him about incorporating these young guys in, because you'd imagine you're a guy like Morin, you're a guy like Chapman, you're all these other guys that have been scoring goals for 4 years. And now you got these underclassmen coming in, and it's like, okay, how do we work you in? How do we work you in? How do we do this? And they think it's awesome. They think it's great that these young guys are stepping up and they're making their lives a little bit easier. So really interested to see what happens when it comes to, I guess, part 4 or 5 of this Billerica saga for Longmeadow.